Evening, everyone, and welcome to the Black School Psychologists Network Incorporated, also known as BSPN YouTube Live. Y'all, thank you so much. We were supposed to get started, but we are here. But before we dive into tonight's topic, which I believe is a very timely topic, hope and resilience, empowering school psychologists everywhere. And then we're going to have our guest speakers introduce themselves. We want to just take a moment to introduce ourselves, especially for those of you who may be joining us for the first time and learning about who we are. My name is Dr. Aileen Milford. I'm a practicing school psychologist in Texas and one of the co founders and the director of marketing for BSPN. I'm also honored to be co hosting tonight with Dr. Tierra Bland, and I'll let her introduce herself now. Dr. Bland.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Tierra Bland. I am a co founder and chief of staff for the Black School Psychologists Network. I'm also an assistant professor of school psychology located in California. And so, if we have any new visitors that are viewers that are attending in tonight, so I just want to go over the vision and mission for the Black School Psychologists Network. And so, exist to support, elevate, and advance the work of Black school psychologists. So, hope that you follow us on all social media at the Black SPS and bspninc.com. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started for our live tonight. I'm really excited to introduce our guests. Well, they're going to actually introduce themselves, so I'm going to leave it to them. So first, I'll have Dr. Janise Parker, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Janise Parker. I am currently an associate professor in the school psychology program at William and Mary. Been here for about 7 years now. I am honored to be here with these fine folks, and I look forward to what I hope to be a very fruitful and helpful conversation.
All right, and we'll pass it over to our second guest for tonight. I know he wants to not be called doctor, but Dr. Charles Barrett, if you introduce yourself.
You said it for me, Tiara. Thank you for that. I am Charles Barrett. I am a school psychologist. I am in year 17, and it is amazing how time flies. I work in Northern Virginia. I'm technically a coordinator supporting psychologists and interns, but I always say I identify as a school psychologist. I am a bona fide practitioner, love it every single day, and excited about tonight with my dear friends. So looking forward to tonight's conversation and to encouraging you, those of you who are watching live and those who might even see this video later on at some point.
All right.
All right, y'all. So we're going to dive right in. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves, you all. So, the first question, given the theme, hope and resilience, empowering school psychologists everywhere, how can school psychologists strengthen their hope and resilience while empowering their students through these challenging times?
Dr.
You want
Parker,
to
go
take it?
ahead. Go
Sure.
ahead, Doctor.
See, I was going to say I yield to my mentors. But I think that's kind of one thing that I think about in terms of really building a community of support during this time. We all know this, right? But I am a strong believer that none of us can do this, whatever this is, on our own. We need each other, we need support, we need encouragement, we need wise counsel. We need people around us who can be honest and tell us when to take a step back, right? And take a break. We talk about resilience. And so to me, that is one of many kind of pivotal things that can help us maintain hope. It's just really making sure that we are intentional about surrounding ourselves with the supportive community. So that's just one thing. I'll kick it to Charles, and then, of course,
Mhm.
I'm sure we will piggyback off of each other.
Yeah, sure. I love that. When I think about hope in particular and resilience, but hope in particular, two things come to mind. The first is having a sense of purpose that grounds you as a person. And if you don't have your own internal compass of who you are and who you're about, and whose you are, that is not going to be enough to sustain you when the inevitable challenges come in life and in the field. So I always start with, before school psychology, who were you as a person? These degrees and credentials are wonderful, but they do not define us, or they do
Mhm.
not bring value to who we are. So, first, I would say encourage you to be anchored in
Mhm.
something that is greater than yourself and greater than the field, greater than the discipline of school psychology. And I think about that, and how when you have a sense of purpose, that does kind of become your compass for what you are about. And when you know why you were created, what you should be doing, it becomes not easy, but easier to live on purpose and for purpose. And I believe that that also transcends to how we engage students, how we engage families, how we engage, staff and coworkers, our colleagues. But the second thing that's also near and dear to me when I think about hope and resilience is the idea that every single person, especially you listening, you have been given a gift.
Mhm.
And we don't talk about that enough. You
Yep.
have something that you do well naturally, and the gift is beyond the role. So, Dr. Parker, Dr. Bland are professors, but I would dare say their gift is not to be a professor of school psychology, but they
Mhm.
use that their gift in that role of teaching at this point. Dr. Milford is a practitioner, and she uses her gifts in that role to facilitate that. So I would say the hope that I have is grounded in knowing what I'm about, but also knowing that I have gifts that I can bring to bear by being a school psychologist. And school psych, although I love it, doesn't define me, but it just
Mhm.
becomes a vehicle to live for a larger purpose. And I try to even inspire that sense of calling and gifting in my students. What are you about beyond these grades?
Yep.
Beyond SOLs and all that.
Mhm.
Who are you? Because these things don't define you. So hope and resilience for me is about purpose, and also knowing what
Mhm.
your gifts are and how you use that as a person.
So
Mhm.
good. So good. And I kind of want to throw in a question because you guys mentioned some really good things, and we may have people on here not knowing how to find community or what a sense of community looks
Mhm.
like. And so,
Hmm.
Dr. Parker, as you were saying, and that's what came to mind. So, if you, either one of you guys, maybe want to share, maybe like how can Black school psychologists or even grad students or faculty, like how can we find community amongst each other?
Mhm.
Right. Mhm.
So, of course, I think there are a couple ways. One, there are, of course, are a number of formal means to do that. So, of course, we have this wonderful platform, right? The Black School Psych Network, where there are student groups and things like that. I know there are other professional organizations, right, associated with that field, where there are mentoring programs and affinity groups and so forth. And so that definitely will be kind of one of my recommendations. So just kind of look for these formal organizations that exist. You also can find a number of Facebook groups that I have found to be helpful. Oftentimes, members will kind of drop different questions down, or they'll say, "Hey, I'm kind of wrestling with this particular issue," and I have found it to be very helpful because people rally around, right? Have you
Yep.
thought about this? Or I'm rooting for you, sis. I'm rooting for you,
Yep.
brother, right? We're here. We're all in this together. And so those formal spaces are so helpful and they're life giving, right? So that's one means. Of course, the informal connections that you make, whether you're networking at a conference or you may be one of few in your district, in your
Mhm.
school site, at your institution, but then some kind of way, you kind of give each other that look like, yeah, we know what's going on, right? And so it's through kind of that, hmm right? What's understood don't always have to be said, but kind of coming
Exactly.
together in that space. But I would say the biggest thing there, whether it's formally or informally, you know it's a powerful community because how you feel in that community, right? So this sense of authenticity that goes back to what Charles mentioned about purpose. When
Mhm.
you move in purpose, when you move in what I attribute to a calling, right? A calling, something bigger than self. I also believe that something bigger than self, for me, it's God, right? Will naturally kind of bring you to like-minded people, people who will sustain you, people who will speak life to you when you feel like giving up, people who will kind of lift your head, right? Because things can get hard, right? The work that we do is challenging, especially as Black school psychologists, when we are out here fighting for all kids. But I know many of us do enter into the field to take care of our babies,
Yep.
right? And so you're doing that, but then we also oftentimes have to deal with our own stuff, right? How people are treating us and so forth. And so if you can counter all of the negativity per se by really immersing yourself with life giving and life affirming colleagues, friends, family. Oh my goodness, it makes the work that much more easier. And I would say for me, it helps me persist when I just kind of feel like, not I'm done, but like I need a break.
No, but I love how you said that, because at least in this season for me, community has been so meaningful, right?
Mhm.
Because sometimes people just know, like, okay, what's going on, right? And just like a word of encouragement, a text, right? Or just recently some of my staff members has just been dropping
Mm.
random letters to me, right? And they don't know
Mm.
how much that has meant a lot, because in this work we're here wanting to be able to help our babies, right? Help all children. But it's like sometimes we do go unnoticed, right? But we never know who's watching. And this season
Mhm.
has shown that even though we're diving into the work, we're doing evals, doing the counseling, but just someone is in the background, is like, hey, I see you. Here's a letter. Here's a word of encouragement to keep pushing. Here's your encouragement. So I love the gems that are being dropped right
Yeah,
now.
for sure. All right, let's see. Let's get into our next question. Oh, this one's good. All right, so given the high demands as a school psych, how do you stay motivated to do your job? Oof, especially right now in mid October.
Mm.
You know, Tier just said something, and it's the reality. We all know in school psych, the busy season is spring. You know, evals, March, April, May,
Hmm.
and it produces a nightmare. But I know for me in my district, it sounds kind of cliche, but post COVID, it's a different game out here, and
Yep.
people are exhausted in mid October, and it's a long road. It's a long road to May, June, whenever you get out of school, and things that I did not experience, in my first probably 10 years in the field or so. But I would say this: I would say that you have to do something that feeds your own soul, feeds your own
Mm,
spirit to keep motivated in the work. And that's going to be different for everybody. And for
yep.
me, it's direct contact with kids. I was teaching last night that so much of our work as school psychologists is indirect service. It's consultation, it's empowering
Hmm.
teachers, and helping parents, helping administrators do better for kids. And it's not always going to be the fun, the Uno game with the kid or testing a kid or counseling. But I know for me, the farther I get away from a school building, I am not happy, I am not inspired, and I am not motivated.
Mm,
So I would say you have to figure out a way to make time for whatever it is that speaks to your spirit, speaks to your soul, that inspires you to keep going into work. And for me, it's having lunch with kids, it's car line duty. If I go to a school where I start and I just open the car doors for a couple of kids and then go to my meeting, my day is still set. If I start with the meeting and I get to see no kids, it's a different story. So I would say figure out when you feel most alive in the field, and try
Mhm.
to recreate that as much as you can to keep inspired.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
good.
Mhm.
When do you feel most alive?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yes.
So there are two things for me. One, I allow myself to sit in my greatness. I allow myself to own my greatness. I allow myself to be excited and proud of myself for my greatness. And I don't apologize for that. And I say that because I think, especially sometimes for Black people, the world tells us all these things that we can't do. Or if we are the bomb.com, the world also tries to quiet us and to humble us, right? And so for me, I take the time. Sometimes it's a whole day when I'm out walking and I'm like, oh, I did that. Yes. Right. Or I'll kind of, as a professor, I publish a lot. Sometimes I go back and I'll read an article or skim the article that I published, and I'm like, "Oh, that's good," right? And so I just allow myself to just be so, I guess, meshed in what I bring to the table, what I bring to the world. And that to me motivates me because it reminds me that I do belong here, that I do have a gift that I'm operating in, that there's nothing that the world can kind of take that away from me. Because again, I know, right, whose I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so it's not arrogant, right? Of course, I'm not walking around here thinking I'm better than everybody. But again, it's just owning, like Charles mentioned, your gift and what you do and what you do well. And so allow yourself to feel that and experience that. And then on the other side, I take breaks, right? So if you're like me and you wear the weight of the world on your shoulder, right? We're so compassionate. Many of us get into this field because, we want to be about change. We want to see people thrive and grow and flourish. And so I think sometimes we work so hard to do that. And that's admirable, right? We need soldiers on the ground who are willing to put in the work because that is how change comes. But we also need soldiers who are well and who are healthy
Yep.
and who take care of themselves. And so, one of my kind of dear friends always say, Janice, don't feel like you have to change, that you can change the world every day. Don't do that. Take that burden off. And so I have allowed myself to give myself grace and say, you know what, today it doesn't have to be me. I know there are other people out there that are doing great work, but today it doesn't have to be me, and I'm okay. And so I'm going to take this day to binge watch movies all day. I'm going to take this day to go walking a few times a day or whatever it is, right? That feeds my soul outside of what I do, in the field of school psychology. I give myself
Mm-hmm.
permission to do that. Don't overwork yourself because we're trying to prove something. You don't have to do that. You don't have to burn out. Your gifts will make room for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm.
I got
that's
to add
so
one thing. I'm
good.
so sorry. This
Yeah,
is
no,
really
go
quick.
ahead. This is good.
Please, this is really
This
good.
you said something about becoming enmeshed in yourself and basically celebrating yourself. I shared something last week in one of my daily meditations, and I said something to the effect of, as you are mindful of how you speak to other people,
Mm-hmm.
be mindful of how you speak to yourself.
Yep.
You have got to speak well of yourself. And where I come from, in my tradition, encourage your own self sometimes.
Mhm.
Mm.
And sometimes the accolades of people, great. But sometimes you have to have enough um, presence of mind or confidence, self assurance to say, I can also celebrate myself, and that's also healthy. So I
Mm-hmm.
want you to also be mindful of the things you allow to rehearse in your own mind
Mm.
that speak to your own spirit, your own soul, as you are mindful of how you speak to your children or your students and colleagues. Be mindful of what you say to yourself. That matters as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It reminds me of someone. She's her name is Dr. Alexis, and she's not in the field, and she constantly says this line, and it sticks with me all the time: "Is your words become your world?"
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
right? And oftentimes we say things, right, and we don't think it's anything until it starts to transform. And
right.
so,
Mm-hmm.
whew, this is so good, y'all. I'm just soaking in everything right now.
I know.
There's
I feel
comments.
like Charles. I know. I'm like, dang, was Dr. Parker and Charles, were they in my conversation, my text earlier? I'm like, telling other people, yes, we got to take care of ourselves, be intentional about taking care of
Right.
ourselves, and pouring back. Like I actually text Aileen today. I was like, I went to the gym and I was so happy to just get back on a routine because I felt like I was pouring so much into others lately and kind of forgetting about myself. So
Yeah.
even little things like that definitely make a big difference.
Big difference. All right, we're going to get into the next question. So the next question is, how did you navigate being an LSSP or school psychologist intern? Any states and districts recommended for internships? So an LSSP, y'all, Texas licensed specialist in school psychology. Now we're called school psychologists. Whoop whoop. We can say that now. But this question more so around for interns, right? States and districts recommended for internships. For me, I would say it's really what is it that you're seeking in that internship, right? Because I know many times going into that as an intern, wanting to be in that job, um, we're wanting to just be in the field, right? But you really want to understand what will make me, like Charles just said, make me come alive, right? What is it that you're seeking? And asking those questions with your supervisor, your school, to be able to help with navigating with that and support. I'm going to always emphasize having that support. What does your support system look like in that district, and what are you seeking? I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Blantieri want to add something to that.
Yeah, no, those are good points. And when we talk about looking at the question, we won't actually recommend any states or districts.
Hmm.
But I think it's a part of that research of maybe asking your faculty, what are some districts where previous students have interned? Can you tell me more about their experiences? Can you connect me with them? Another thing that I did when I was a grad student was actually going to each district's website, seeing what do the school psychologists look like in this particular district, and
Hmm.
even reaching out to that the lead or coordinator of psych services and seeing if you can connect with them and maybe just ask questions about that department to kind of get a feel, or seeing if you can even connect to current interns to get more information about their experiences and such. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would add. I love all that's been said. I would add that internship, be it specialist, doctoral internship, it's your last year of formal training before you graduated and all the things are completed. So I would say don't be afraid to intern in a place that might not be exactly how you were trained.
Mhm.
So, for example, we have interns who come to where I work and they were trained in, let's say, an RTI model for identifying SLD. And that's not what we do in my district.
Mhm.
But it gives you another perspective that kind of rounds out your training experience.
Mhm.
yep.
The other thing I would say, love the ideas about support, look on the websites about, what do people look like, how the job structured. But I would also add the internship, especially in this day of critical shortages, that in a lot of places there are vacancies, in school districts. The internship could be a really great trial for you to see, do I want to work here?
Yeah.
And if you have an idea of where you want to land in terms of geographically or the kind of work you want to do, you could also look at the internship as this kind of a test drive of, do I like this part of the country? Do I like who I'm working with, the student population, all those things? But also keep in mind that although the internship might be the district's job, kind of chance to kind of see how you fit in, it's also you seeing how they fit in your life. So you're also interviewing them in that process to figure out, is it worth your time long term. So I think there are a number of things that you can think about as you approach internship, but
Mhm.
ultimately I think make it work for you and what your long term goals are beyond the program.
Love it, love it. We do have some comments in the chat. Charles, we have a question for you that we can ask at the end, related
Okay.
to your daily motivations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing that this is such a rich and great dialogue, Dr. Charles, it says volume to be increased. If you can increase your volume a little bit, Charles, on your
I
end.
would. I'll use my
Okay.
outside voice.
Yes, because they said it's a rich and great dialogue. So we love it.
Wonderful.
We're getting a lot of positive feedback into the chat.
Mm,
People are soaking in everything. The gems are gemming right now,
mm,
y'all. It is gemming. All right, so we're about to get into this next question. I feel like this is a question that everybody is anticipating, right? How can we ease anxiety with students and staff?
mm,
So this could be a tough question. After school shootings happening in the news, and any
mhm.
one of you all can start with that question.
That's a tough one, because I would probably kind of venture out and guess that there's quite a bit of anxiety probably across the country around school shootings. And so just kind of first thinking about some of the principles of crisis response,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think being very clear and transparent around, what the crisis response plan looks like. Hopefully, you are at a place where there is a crisis response plan. And if
Right.
not, then perhaps our beautiful consultation and collaboration skills will push us to push for a solid crisis response plan, right?
Yeah.
Because you do have to be prepared when that occurs. Um, any event that does happen, hope that it doesn't. But in the event that does happen, again, going back to kind of having a solid crisis response plan, making sure supports are in place, letting individuals know, students, families, teachers, the facts of the situation, right? How are things being resolved?
Mm-hmm.
What does kind of our short term, long term plan looks like? But I would say, as school psychologists who are trained in mental health, I think this is really where we lean into our skills as professionals, and we can serve as kind of valuable individuals, colleagues, as it relates to kind of helping kids, communities, students, families, all of the above, kind of respond to these events as best as we can.
I love that. I'm gonna tell a quick story. When I was in college, 9/11 happened, and I was in New
Mm,
York, and we can literally see into the city from where the college. I went to St. John's in Queens. You can see into the city when that happened. I was also playing for a church. I was playing for the Shekinah Youth Chapel of the Greater Allen AME Cathedral, and it was pastored by Dr. Floyd Flake. And Floyd Flake, for a long time,
mm,
was a congressman. And I will never forget the Sunday after 9/11 happened, he came to the youth church and he spoke to children. And this
mm,
is before I knew what school psychology was,
Wow.
about crisis response. He normalized their feelings of
mm,
being afraid, of being scared, and all these things. But he modeled healthy coping as an adult, as a way for children to model how they cope. So I think one of the things that we can do as adults, as school psychologists, is not to ignore the reality that kids are scared, that kids may be nervous about going to school and what's going to happen to me. But I think the more that we can normalize their feelings, validate their feelings, but also model healthy coping on our end. So as Dr. Parker said, talking about collaboration, consultation with teachers, with principals, with other school staff, when we help them cope in healthy ways, it becomes a model for how children cope in healthy ways. So sometimes, again, when the adults around kids are processing in ways that are beneficial or meaningful, then it becomes a kind of a strategy for kids to say, well, this is how my teachers respond, my parents respond, other adults around me, and it becomes kind of what they can look forward to how they respond in similar situations. But never forgot that, 20 some odd years ago, how he came and he spoke to kids about
Mm.
what we're going to do to protect you as adults. Powerful example of how we can model for children through our behavior as adults.
So good, so good. I know that was a tough question. I
Yeah.
remember when someone submitted that, I was like, "Ooh, how do we even
Right.
talk about
Right.
that?" Because I feel like
Mhm.
years ago, where it was more rare, where it's like, "Oh, school is a safe place," but now I'm like, I feel like you can't even really say that school is really a safe place because of everything that's happening. And then it's like, how do we ensure that with students? So, um,
Mhm. And can I say too, I also think it's important, like we know that it's there,
mm,
right? We know unfortunately these situations can happen to any of us, and
right,
I'm sure it influences our psyche. um I know for me, I have two little ones, and when they get on the bus, I always kiss them, and every now and then I say, I'm kissing them, I'm hugging them, because God forbid if something happened, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do that. And I
mm,
think a lot of us are feeling that, right? That
Mhm.
it has changed how we do business, whether we're parents, um, aunties, uncles, right? Even by you being there at the school, you become, right, the aunties and the uncles. And so I'm sure like those thoughts do run in the back of our mind, because it's just hard not to have those because of everything that's happening. But I will say what I have also found to be helpful is to not ruminate on it.
yep,
Because if
Mhm.
you ruminate and think about all the what ifs every day, all day, and so forth, then it is going to kill your soul. You're
Yep.
going to be anxious all the time, worried, and so forth. And so I wanted to normalize too that as adults, as school psychologists who have multiple roles in life, that we probably are feeling those as well. But we also have to, again, like Charles said, model healthy coping strategies.
yep,
And part of that is not to allow ourselves to be so consumed with the what ifs.
Mhm.
yeah.
Love it.
All right.
Beautiful.
So we have, before we conclude, what final thoughts or words of encouragement would you like to share with everyone watching, whether live or those who will be watching the replay?
I'll just share. Maybe a year and a half now, I've been talking about this as much as I can, but I mean it. It's a simple affirmation, it's a simple encouragement, but I want you to internalize that you are enough. That's it. That as a person, the fact that you are here, you are enough. And who you are, not what you do, who you are, not your credentials, the letters behind your name. But I always say you were someone before school psychology, you'll be someone after school psychology. So I want you to really internalize that wherever you are, wherever is what's going on around you in your, schooling and professional settings, in America, you are enough by virtue of being a person. And that's the most I can say to you today, even tomorrow, that you're always enough, and you are created as enough, and nothing you do is going to add more value to you. So I want you to really believe that you're enough, and let that encourage you throughout whatever you're going through at this time.
Mhm.
Mm-mm-mm. Nope.
Right?
The organ cue right now.
Yes. So I'm going to take it back and bring it forward. Um, I would say, especially as Black school psychologists, as Black folk, greatness runs in our veins.
Mm,
Mm,
We come from ancestors who survived, found ways to not just survive, but thrive, found ways to do it very skillfully, intellectually, found ways to persist, found ways to make things better for the next generation,
yeah.
even when they couldn't see what the next generation would be like, right? So they moved in that vision and purpose. And so I think that is a reminder, in terms of, who we are, who we always have been as a people, I think there is something unique about being Black. I think there is a lens in which, we view the world. And of course, generally speaking, right? But I think there is a lens in which we view the world. I think that we oftentimes approach things with love, with reverence, with care, with compassion, all the things, right? And so I think even as we kind of personalize those affirmations, I'm going to kind of extend it out and think about those affirmations as a collective and in terms of who we are as Black folks in this country.
Mhm.
And so to me, my kind of final thoughts is just, again, I go back to what I said, own our greatness, walk in our greatness, and again, know that we come from a lineage of people who were great, and we are great just like our ancestors and just like our elders. That's it.
So good. So good.
Whew.
Aileen, you got something you want to add too? We might as well
Listen, I'm
everyone.
just soaking this. I'm like, wow. It's like what everyone said. Own your greatness. You're enough, right? And being human. I think that um, we're so, we're trained to be great practitioners, professors, that we forget to be human, and that even if you make a mistake, it's okay, right? Yeah, for me, it's just being human, being human.
That is so true. Aileen, you made me think back to a few weeks ago. So
Mhm.
no, I don't want to announce this on YouTube Live. I'll just say it was a rough day at work 2 weeks ago. And I was vulnerable with my students. And Aileen, you made a good point where it's like you show that you are human with your students and being able to model that for them, like it's okay. And I think that's something where even in the schools, modeling that same behavior for students,
Hmm.
like it's okay if you need to take a break or go for a walk or if you need to cry or phone a friend, whatever it is, like it is okay. And then I'll just kind of wrap up to say, like, take up the space, y'all. Like every room you enter, occupy that. I
Hmm.
something that I had to tell myself on a constant like basis working in academia where it's so easy to compare of like what your colleagues are doing, how many books they're or articles they're publishing or this that and the third, but like knowing that we deserve to be in these spaces and really just showing up and showing out, I think is something I will also add as words of encouragement for all of us.
Yes, yes.
Love it.
Whew,
Love it.
love it. We do have a couple of comments and questions
Oh,
in the
nice.
chat. Back to what was said, we have Nick who says, "Man, speak on it, Charles. I somehow not subscribe to your daily motivations anymore. How do I sign up again?"
Yeah, easy. Well, you can DM me on Instagram, email me, charles@charlesbarrett.org. I can tell you how, but easy way, type in Charles Barrett, Google Play or App Store, totally free, and download the app. And on my Instagram page, there's a pinned post that shows 3 screenshots of how you can subscribe. It's really easy. I can walk you through if you email me, charles@charlesbarrett.org. Find me on Instagram, DM me, and I can walk you through. But download the app from the Google Play store, App Store, or Google Play, and make sure you turn on notifications for the Charles Barrett app. Type in Charles Barrett, you see my initials, CAB, totally free. You'll get it at 8 a.m. Eastern on your phone, on your device. You'll see it every morning.
Listen, if you ain't subscribed to that thing, I am subscribed, and every day I get something from Charles. I was like, dang, are you in my business?
Right.
Like,
Seriously.
like again, Charles. you
Y'all
know.
are kind.
So
Y'all are kind.
listen, that thing be hitting.
Bless you. Bless y'all.
We have Stephanie B who says, "Yes, Dr. Parker, speak." I'm trying to do it like I'm also saying it in the chat. You're setting me up for a great start to my day here in Japan as you
Yes.
remind me from whence I come. Hashtag
Same.
greatness runs through my veins. Okay,
Period.
shout out to Japan out here. Listen, we
Right.
global.
Mhm.
Okay, okay,
I'm
okay.
loving it.
Whew. Did you want to go into the wrapping up? 'Cause I know we have like this live went fast. It
I
went fast.
know. They did. I'm just
I don't
checking
want
it
to get off.
through. I know we probably could talk more and
Oh,
more and more all night. All right. So thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Thank you, Charles, so much for this fruitful conversation tonight. This probably won't be the last. We may have to do this one,
run
do
it
like a
back.
part two. Right. Exactly. Thank you all for viewing tonight's YouTube Live. So before we wrap up, Charles, I know you just kind of shared how people can stay in touch with you. Or were there any other social media handles that you would like to share?
Yeah, so I guess I'm old, so I'm still on Facebook. So Charles Barrett on Facebook. Instagram is at Charles A. Barrett, and then X or Twitter at underscore Charles Barrett. I think it's Charles Barrett, maybe Charles A. But you'll see my picture up there. And then LinkedIn, I'm on there as well as Charles Barrett. So love to follow along. And Janise said this earlier about informal networks or formal networks. You know, there's a term that we say, shoot your shot. This is not about anything inappropriate, but we're regular people. We're human. So you reach out, I'm going to email you back. DM a question, I'm going to respond to you. So don't be a stranger. Follow along, and I'd love to engage with all of you out there.
Perfect. And Dr. Parker, how can our viewers
Mhm.
maybe stay in touch with you as well?
Yep. So I'm also on Facebook, Janise Parker. You can find me. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter or X. And look, I'm old school because I had to pull it up because I'm like, I don't even know what my handle is. I don't keep up with that stuff. I got too much stuff going on. Again, we're human, right? Look, I got a husband. I got two kids that demand my attention. So here's my handle, and it's right here. You see, we like to cut up and have a good time too.
That's it. That's it.
Um, Janise Parker at 579, and that's the handle for both Twitter as well as Instagram. So Janise Parker 579. You can follow me. I don't post a lot of school psych stuff. I do every now and then, but again, I think what you'll see is the holistic parts of who I am. So I love the post about me going to the gym, right? Trying to be Viola Davis, woman king in my head, right? Thinking that I had that physique. I don't, but I'm in my head, I do, right? So you'll see kind of things like that. So, but again, I think it speaks to you got to have a life outside of the work we do to sustain yourself. So,
So true. Listen, Janise, I'm about to follow you after this because I was just telling Aileen I need a workout accountability partner. So
Yes, me
if you
too.
post, then I'll go to the gym.
facts.
All right. Aileen, do you want me to share some BSPN announcements?
Yes, you can, and I'll follow you after
All
that.
right. So before we get going, we do have a few announcements. So the Black School Site Summit 2025 will be virtual. If you have not seen that announcement, stay tuned for further updates. So if you're interested in submitting breakout session, poster session, that will be released soon. So make sure you're subscribed to our website or following on social media. Also, our graduate student support groups are back. So if you missed our October session, it is okay. We have two more coming up this semester. So our next one is scheduled for November 4th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you go, so make sure to subscribe to our website at www.bspninc.com to receive email updates, and make sure to follow us on all platforms at the Black SPS to stay informed. So, well, this was great, guys. Oh my gosh, I don't want to go. So
I don't want to go, but I gotta
you don't got to go home.
Look, I'm enjoying this space because my husband had the kids right now. So I'm like, I don't want to go either. I don't want to go either. What else y'all need me to say? I love my babies.
Listen, breaks are needed, right? Breaks.
Listen, breaks are needed.
All right, Aileen, you had any final things?
I don't. I'm just sitting here. I don't want to get off y'all for real. But I know we gotta go.
We do.
I was seeing if there was any final questions in the chat. Did anyone have any final questions?
This is your time.
And that's what we forgot to do today too. If anyone had wanted to submit any last minute questions, let's see.
Yeah.
I'll give a second for people to type.
Everyone is enjoying this live.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, we have one question that just came in. How is everyone's school year going?
It's schooling right now. That's what I'm gonna say. School. But yes, it's going well. Some days are good, some days are bad. But like I said, community has been good. But I'm
Mhm.
enjoying it.
Mhm.
I'm enjoying it.
It's busy. It's
It's,
moving fast. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doc.
no, go ahead, Charles.
It's moving fast. The pace is intense. It feels like spring in October.
Mm-hmm.
I got my first referral today with a January time date already. So
Oh,
we're now already
wow.
in 2025. So it's moving. We think about timelines and eligibility. We're
Mm-hmm.
already in January. Year's halfway done. So it's moving. It's definitely moving. But it's good.
So I would say it's going good. So I shared with my dear colleagues before we went live that I am on a 1 year research leave
Oh,
as a faculty member, and it is magical. It is glorious. It is wonderful. It
Good.
is, oh, I can't even speak how great it is. But I will say this too, for those of you who are following and you are thinking about pursuing a career in the academy, I remember one of my mentors, Scott Graves, said, I love the flexibility of academia. And I realize that as Black folks, we can have that too. We can
Mm-hmm.
have that experience as well. And so I say all that to say, pursue that faculty position, love on that faculty position, because if you are at a great institution like mine, then you get opportunities like this where you get a little bit of a break for a whole year. So things are going great right now. Go into the academy. Go into the academy. That's
You
my
better
plug.
recruit.
We
You
need
better
more
recruit.
Black faculty.
no, that's real. That is. That
You
is
better
so
recruit.
real. Right? Dr.
That is
Parker,
a
we need a BSPN faculty support group.
Listen.
Facts.
Because, woo,
If these walls could talk.
seriously, seriously. Even for myself, I said this school year, overall, I would say good. There's waves. Like a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, goodness, how am I going to make it throughout the next 9 weeks? It was definitely challenging.
mhm.
Um, I do have a full teaching load, so that has been a difference from previous school years. So it's something I'm adjusting with and showing myself a lot of grace for a lot of new things that I'm doing this school year. So next semester, hoping to be a little bit better, but it's I'm hanging in there. And let's see, I think we have one more question. Byron said, who's coming to the BSPN Summit 2025? It should be
Yeah.
everybody.
100%
We are
attendance.
making this right. We are making this accessible for everyone to attend. So we want to see you there. Tell a friend, tell a colleague, tell a family member. Just invite everybody, okay?
Right.
Let's see. And someone also asks, oh wow, there's a lot of comments coming in here real fast. Okay, I can't keep up, Aileen.
Yeah, I'm looking too.
Um, someone had asked for about general advice for current doctoral students.
Is so important. And your mentor might not be your program. It might not be a student who's ahead of you or faculty, but um, on this side of my doctoral program, I understand how important someone who's been through what you're going through is just to get some perspective. And for a lot of us, we might be the first in our family or that in our circle. In my family, I was the first in my immediate family, but I had cousins who went to med school and law school and other grad school, but I still didn't know how to navigate the politics of grad school. And I know I made my own missteps, in that process. So I would say reach out to someone. You can reach out to me, and I'll talk to you and kind of just give you some perspective. Um, your mentor is not there to tell you what to do. Your mentor is there to listen and give you some perspective on here's what I would do, here's what I've experienced or what I think on this side. Every fight is not worth fighting. There's some things that
Say that.
just wisdom of someone else going through it can help you navigate. So I would say definitely mentorship, not just grad school, but through your whole career. Someone who is where you're trying to be is powerful in your life. So definitely, I would say identify a mentor that can help you navigate these uncharted waters that you're in, especially in school psychology.
Hmm. And I would say too, so I'm gonna say shout out to Charles because early career 2017, right? He didn't tell me what to do when I reached out to him, but he gave me perspective, and I'm still here because he gave me perspective. So I'm just gonna say that, okay?
He
We can
didn't
have
bash
we can
you.
have off of YouTube live conversations about what that looked like. So mentorship definitely is important, and it can actually keep you in the field because I'm still here.
Yes,
Thanks,
ma'am.
Charles. I would
That's
also
good. That's
say
good. You know it.
one of the things about pursuing your doctorate in school psychology, whether you're going the clinical route, academia, consulting, it does give you a little more time to kind of pursue, develop, lean into an expertise. One of the things that I would say based on my journey is this goes back to what we said at the beginning, right? Full circle moment, purpose, vision, something bigger than yourself. Pursue your passions. And if you can't necessarily do it in the current program that you're in, again, find a mentor who can help you figure out how to get there. And I would also say, trust your passions. Again, like I said, I
Mhm.
think sometimes many of us, we see things, see issues, challenges, but also not just challenges, strengths, right? Opportunities in a way that others may not. I see in the comments someone mentioned, I love that we're talking about spirituality and religion in school psychology. For those who know my work well, that is a lot of what I do and what I have brought to the field of school psychology.
Mhm.
When I started doing it, no one was really talking about it. And I remember I had a lot of closed doors and people saying, no, stop, don't do it, all of this. But it was something that I felt called to do.
Mhm.
And again, I say this very humbly. I have been identified as probably one of the or the leading scholars as it relates to religion, spirituality, and so forth in school psychology. That was never why I did it. I did it because I felt like it mattered, right? I knew it mattered for kids, for families, for communities, for us, right? For those of us who do identify as spiritual, because not all of us do. And I recognize that too. But I knew it mattered and I knew it was untapped. And so, even with all like, I'm going to say naysayers, but maybe some of the distractions there, I just leaned into it. And so, for those who are pursuing that PhD, trust um, kind of that voice that tells you to go a certain route, as long as it's doing well by people, by kids, by families, and so forth. And then surround yourself with people who will help you kind of do it and do it well. But if there's a burning desire to lean into an expertise, it's unique, it's different. um, don't hide that, right? Don't question yourself, because I always say 9 times out of 10, that calling is there for a reason, and so you owe it to yourself to explore it.
So good.
Listen,
Mhm.
Mm.
I still don't want to get off, y'all. This is beautiful.
See.
Shout out to y'all for real. Thank you for your hard work, just the representation, being bold in what you're called to do and doing it every day. I really appreciate that. just to add on to that, I would say be okay with how you're evolving. Sometimes we have an idea of how we want to transform or what our end goal looks like, but life and our journey, calling has a way of shifting that and being okay with that because you're going to land into what you're supposed to do, right? So I would say that for doctoral students, what you have a passion for right now may change later on, and
Yep.
that's okay. Be okay with the change. Be okay with what you can't control. That's
Mhm.
something I had to learn. So, whew.
Yes, for
Now,
sure.
as we're talking, the last thing I'll say, because I know we got to go at some point, but
Listen, we,
um, iron sharpens iron, and
Yep.
when people that you're in community with, like we are tonight, when what they say triggers something in you and speaks to something in you, that's how you know you're in the right circle.
mm,
That there's this kind of this reciprocal interaction between people in the same space. So as Janice was talking, as Aileen was talking, something that came to me is that calling calls you. So
mm,
you have to
Mm.
listen for what is calling you in school psychology. What are you drawn to? And what will you be unsatisfied if you didn't do it? What I hear from Dr. Parker is that I couldn't be in this field and be my authentic self and not talk about spirituality. So for some people is I have got to serve kids with autism. For some, I have got to consult at a systems level. For some, it's reading prevention. For some, it's SELs. For some, it's whatever you do. But calling calls you, and
Yep.
it's not going to let you rest until you do
Mm.
that which is calling you. And that's why I go back to this thing about purpose. That is, it pursues you. So as long as we're listening to what is drawing us specifically, and we all have a specific part to play in this game called school psychology. So I would encourage you to listen to what is calling you, what is speaking to you, and that's where you find peace. That's where you find
Mm.
satisfaction, fulfillment, because you're living in purpose, fulfilling purpose. So calling calls you, and something is calling all of
Mm.
us, and I want us to be aware of that and then respond to it.
That
That's
was
so
the benediction. Look,
listen,
I got chills. I just grabbed my tissue. I don't have nothing else to say. I
right?
know better than to come back behind
Listen,
right there. If you picking up what I'm picking down, if you grew up in the church, I don't
listen.
have nothing else to say.
I was about to say, can we have a little, the keys playing a little bit?
good. The
Try to get this
organ
shit
plant.
right.
As somebody put in the chat, yes, pass the offering tray, please.
Uh,
Oh no, but seriously, no, that was so good. I know I had something else to say, but I'm like, how can I even go after
Listen,
that? Like,
say it, Doc. Say it,
listen.
Doc.
listen, I'm gonna just keep it real brief and but just say it, but just keep shining your light. Just that's what I'm just gonna add to that. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
keep shining your light. The kids see you, your colleagues, you may think they don't see you, but they do. The families
Mhm.
see you, especially the Black families. They definitely see you. And oftentimes we may be the first Black school psychologist or Black faculty member that some of our students and families have ever met. So
Yeah.
definitely keep shining, show up as yourself. Like, I go
Yes.
to work with my box braids that I have embraced. I see Dr. Parker with her yes, like, don't be afraid to just be you. Do you, boo. That's all I want to say. Somebody said this is a Wednesday night
The right
Bible
type of
study, y'all.
study.
Listen,
True.
we needed this. We
I
really
needed
needed
this.
this. Like,
Man, y'all revived my soul for real because I needed this. This was
I
beautiful.
know this was so good, y'all. All right, we have been on here for
Yeah, we
about
gotta go. We
an
gotta
hour
respect the
now.
time. We gotta respect time.
Aileen, you want to close us out again?
Y'all, thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of everyone watching who will tune in later. Thank you so much for your gems, your wisdom, your work, your encouragement. hopefully we have another part. Well, we're gonna have part two, hopefully, right? But again, thank you so much, y'all. We will have this up. Share with those who could not watch tonight, because there's so many gems in here that you have to watch it again and again.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to watch this for the rest of the year, do this. This is hope and resilience tonight, y'all. So as we're about to end off, thank you. You guys have a great night. I don't want to get off.
Look, girl, my kids gonna be calling me real soon now.
Listen, I'm gonna get off now,
Okay.
y'all.
Because I'm getting ready to hear, mommy, mommy. Okay. Don't take me away from my kids, Eileen.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Thank you all. You guys have a great night.
Yes.
You
Take
too.
care, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, folks. Good night.